episode of The Next Fix, where we visit people who are familiar with the rock bottom and the comeback, really, right? You know, everybody likes a success story, but what we really love is the comeback story. And we're here again today to talk about one of these tales, right? And we're here with Gina Economopoulos. I think I got it.
You got it.
I got it, right?
You got it.
And if you couldn't ascertain that she is, I believe that's a Greek last name to the T, right? And that's a blessing. And so this beautiful lady, Gina, is here with us today. Gina, how are you living today?
Good. How are you, Ryan? And it's a pleasure to be here.
I'm glad that you feel that way. Now, yeah, I am absolutely stellar. But we're going to talk about when things weren't stellar, right? Specifically for you. And so what we always like to dig into here in the beginning is what was it like for you at the rock bottom moments of your life? You know, when things were at their darkest, what was that like for you, Gina?
Well, personally, when people talk about rock bottom, for me, I don't think I was ever at a rock bottom. For me, rock bottom, I see is death, dying from this disease. That's how I look at it. I mean, because, and that's what brought me into my own recovery, into my own sobriety, because my fiancé, I found him dead from this disease back in March of 2013. And so, and he was the real alcoholic, not me.
Got it.
At the time. But I mean, I feel like I always have an unusual story of other alcoholics, of being in jail and, you know, wrecking up a car and et cetera, et cetera. But for me, my story, I mean, I realized we all come in with pain. So I came into these rooms with pain as well as with drinking being my best friend. So I had the two and two together.
And
for
let
me,
me
it started.
Go ahead. I just want to address something real quick, Gina, because I you know, it struck a chord for me when you're talking about the others. And I find that sometimes that could be very dangerous when you're not the sickest person in the room, because you think you're okay compared, right? You're like, well, I'm not wrecking my car and I'm not dead, so I'm all right. And so then people like that's really dangerous, because they'll limp along. They won't make a change because they think, well, I'm not that person, so I guess I'll just keep doing what I'm doing. And so it could be very, very dangerous. But I'm feeling like that what's coming next is you're starting to realize, yeah, I'm not doing so great either, right?
Not at all. And I'm a slow learner, real slow. And in hindsight, I was a runner. I ran. I ran away from life. I ran away from pain. And where did I run to? I run, whether it was alcohol or the emotional bottom of being self-pity. I was a great runner, a great denier, but I had a great smile on my face that got me through it. It was like, oh, nothing's wrong with her.
Right.
And but for me, my story is so unusual, like, to me, because yes, I've heard everyone's story, and we are the same. There's pain. We have a cunning, baffling, insidious disease that wants us dead or wants us to live in misery. And that's how I felt in my life. I was living in misery. With alcohol, even without alcohol, I was living in misery. I started drinking, and I had to look in hindsight how alcohol was my best friend. Because some people know right off the bat, hey, I'm an alcoholic. You know, some people know when they took that first drink. Some people came from families with the disease of alcoholism, and it's a family disease. And, oh, I don't want to be like my mom. I don't want to be like my dad. But they end up being like their mom and dad. But yet my family was Greek and Italian, unconditional love. Do we have drinking? Yes. Wine and beer. We love that wine. I love that wine, even as a kid. So here I'm this little kid with this smile to say, hey, Dad, can I have a screwdriver? And then he's like, oh, yeah, go in the garage. I was like, no, I want the vodka and orange juice. What 8-year-old thinks of that? Cutesy. Oh, she's so cute. Have fun. So
scary, right?
That's how my life with alcohol was. You know, I was a good hider. I became a friend. Nobody really knew that I was a drinker, not even my family. I went to college. Of course, that's where I let loose. I mean, everybody studied, and here I'm in the bar all the time, just drinking. You know, I just had to have that drink in the morning. I had to have that drink in the afternoon. And And then, of course, in the bar, what do I develop is a skill of billiards, pool shark. I was a great pool shark. So drinking, pool, and study. But study came last. And
Right.
so I needed this program 20, 30, 40 years ago. And I did not realize it because I was fun, cutesy, not me, not Gina Economopoulos being an alcoholic. No way. So as I continued, left college, I went to live with my family in PA and I became a bartender. Why not?
Right. Makes sense. Right.
It
Right.
does
It
make
was me too.
sense.
I was a bartender. I'm like, well, this is awesome. And I love to do this. I might as well just get paid to do it and also drink for free.
Amen. 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 And it was a familiar surroundings. It was something that I thought I could fit into because my whole life I was trying to fit into someone or something or some group. And I was so empty. It was like a soul searching on the inside. And here I was bartending for a few years. Okay, forget about my social work degree. I'll just bartend, travel. You could get a job anywhere. I mean, back then you could, if going to a town and say, hey, can I bartend, But during that time, my mom was diagnosed with cancer and she was terminally ill, 4 to 6 months to live. So I took, the bartending. I was still bartending, but yet I said, okay, I'll take care of my mom with my dad. It wasn't like, okay, it was just a natural thing to do because my parents were just great parents in my life. So I did. I took care of my mom. She ultimately died. So when she died, I'm in a dark place. I don't have any God, no faith, no nothing. But what do I know is pain, what I'm familiar with. And what do? We try to numb it. So started drinking. But at the same time, I was searching for the meaning of life, the purpose of life.
The big one. Right.
The big one. Like we're always searching for it. And I ended up back in my Catholic church, my Catholic roots, one would say. I came back to my faith, came back to church, etc. And then what do I do with that? Hey, let me go join the convent.
Right. You're like, see you fly friends. I'm gonna go over here get with this other group, which it's an interesting change.
Yeah,
Man, you shifted gears though, right? Like, so now
big time.
you're in the church, right? So
The
okay,
church. Yeah. And so here I'm thinking this is it. I went from a Sodom and Gomorrah living in, dark place to a place of light, a conversion of St. Paul, got knocked off the bar stool. What could you say? Well, what's the next thing? You join the convent.
you still
Everybody
got
does
bartender
that.
jokes. You see, you guys have bartender jokes, right? I think it's
Yeah. And so I was a sister for 12 years in the South Bronx. Once again, I'm a very loved sister. Everybody loves me. How could you not? And
right.
and but it's ironically during that time I didn't realize. I mean, the disease was there in hindsight, funny, baffling, insidious, and I did not even realize that during that time because I was in charge of the alcohol. I was always around alcohol. Once again, I was in such pain, emptiness on the inside. So when we were able to drink, I drank and I left. I left the convent. I got kicked out. I was emotionally abused. And that's a story in itself. But
Okay.
but
So,
I didn't get kicked.
you didn't get
Go
kicked
ahead.
out for the booze.
No,
It was
no.
something else.
It was, yeah, I was sent away. You name it. Everything. I was like, I mean, I'm a great person to be on a couch and share my story. Give me a couch and I'll just share my woes and my self pity and look at me, poor me. And so, no, I was so far from realizing I was an alcoholic, but yet in hindsight, like I had my cousin saying, sister, I think you drink too much. No, not me, and even my superior at the end would say to me, I think you drink too much. No, not me. And then she says, you only have that one drink. Yeah, I can have that one drink, one beer, one wine, whatever it is. And I would have that one. And of course, always managed to find others,
Got it.
whatever it was. I mean, it was sort of like, and I was just trying to escape, alcohol was an escape route for me. And also I just couldn't, I just liked the feeling. I liked the effect. I thought it was somebody I wanted to be, which really wasn't, but that was, and I was a sister in a habit. I mean, God loved me, but yet got kicked out, moved forward. And so I had gone Then from there, I went to live with men and women with disabilities because my heart was broken. And so here I'm like, hey, I'm free. I could go drink, and so of course I had a nice bar in this house where I was a house mom to these adult men and women with disabilities. That's what I knew how to do, but it was a transition time for me because like I said, my heart was broken. I didn't know how to live life. I lived a life of poverty. I slept on the floor, didn't have anything. And then here, coming into the world in 2008, like, don't even ask me who was famous back then because I don't know, because we didn't have any
Right.
TVs or anything like that.
Okay.
But yet I kind of knew how to drink when I came out. So, and then 2 years later after that, I says, you know what, I want to do what Gina wants to do. And she came to the beach here, Jersey Shore. And what did Gina goes back to doing is bartending because that's the only thing I knew how to do. Bartend, none, bartend.
None. Bartender, none. It's interesting. I love it. I love it. Okay, so
Yeah.
you're in Jersey Shore, and because right when you are a good bartender, I mean, any bartender says it's all like about the skill or crafting the drinks. No, it's
Yeah,
not.
it's not.
It's about the personality. People come to be with that person and interact, and when you have a soul that's good at that, right, and then you lubricate it with substances, right, now you've got a party. And so I don't doubt for a fact that you're a great bartender in that, right? Like, it was entertaining and you're kind. And so you're in Jersey Shore and you go back to bartending. Now I'm imagining that this is where the gas pedal gets stepped on as far as the like the alcohol intake, the volume, if you will, right?
Yeah, yes. And then and that's where I met Danny. Danny had walked into the bar and we just started dating. It was like, wow, this guy likes me. It was my first relationship after being out of the convent for 2 years. So being familiar, what to do. And of course, I didn't tell him I was a nun, at first. I was telling all the guys I was a nun, but nobody called me. So I was like, okay, I'm not going to tell anyone that I was a nun. So and that's where alcoholism came into my life because it was Danny that was the alcoholic. I mean, I come to find out that he's the alcoholic, that he's the drunk. Yeah, and then when I did tell him I was a nun, it didn't scare him. So and I do believe back then. Now I'm still not familiar with alcoholism. I'm still not familiar with Gina. Like I'm still like on this emptiness inside, like trying to fit in. I mean, here I am in my 40s. By now I thought I would be a grandmother, you know what I mean, living all this what American dream is, but that wasn't me.
Okay.
So
but now you got Danny.
Now I got Danny, so I'm like, yeah, this is great, Danny. Yeah. And he told me he was an alcoholic. It didn't scare me, so he told me to go to Al-Anon, a 12-step program for families, and I'm like, okay, I'll go. Never heard of it. Went, and I'm like, oh, I know these steps. I was a nun, like step one is let go and all that stuff. I'm like, yeah, I know all this,
Yeah.
I'm ahead of time, but yet, of course, when I went into Al-Anon, my desire or my wanting is how do I stop Danny from drinking, and that's what we all go in for,
Right. And just so everybody knows, if they don't know, Al-Anon is it's the companion branch of AA. When I say companion, I mean companions of alcoholics, whatever they may be, mothers, sisters, wives, husbands, so it's the people that are attached. So, but again, you're on the outside looking at Danny. Danny's the issue, and you are, but that's how you get that green light for yourself. And ironically, if she listens to this, but I was with somebody who was named Gina, and she was always like, well, I'm not as bad as Ryan. And so, and it was true. And I feel looking back years later, I'm like, man, that's tough because for that person, for you, especially with Danny, you're like, well, I'm not as bad as him. So then you perpetuate your part in it, right? Your own burden.
Yeah, because I was trying to take care of him and trying to make him stop. Like doing everything I can, enabler, manipulator, you name it. So I still have those symptoms of those disease, and I wouldn't drink with him because I wanted him to stop. So it's like you're stopping, like this. So my focus was on him, and he did find sobriety. thank God. He found it out in Arizona, thank God. And back in the summer of 2012, this all happened. And he's like, Gina, I found sobriety out here. Would you come out here and be with me? And I was like, Danny, I'll be with you any Timbuktu. I mean, I'm a great supporter, great cheerleader for everybody else. And I'm
Yeah.
like, yeah. And so that was our plan. Once again, my plan, my goal. Like, this is what
Yeah.
I'm going to do in my life. And he did. He came back to get his truck, drove across country. His mom was in there. I was supposed to be in there, but I had to work. We had this plan. His plan as they were driving through Indiana, they got into a tragic car accident, and his mother burned up, and she died, and Danny burned up. He did not die, but he burned up. So when you get that call,
When you say burned up, like he's disabled, and I mean,
well,
when you say burned
yeah.
up, sounds.
Well, yes. What happened was he avoided a deer, hit a tree. The mother died on impact, and the truck got on fire. And Danny, get this, Ryan, God didn't knock him out because he saw every tree he knocked into, and he saw his mother die, and he saw his mother burn up. And he was trying. I mean, I share this because this is his story, and it's true. This is a real story in his life and in my life. And so when you can't imagine whether it's an alcoholic or not alcoholic to go through something like that. But yet there was a truck driver behind, saved him. They flew him to Indianapolis. So I went to Indianapolis to be with them, to be with him, support him. And what do? We get involved with AA, Al-Anon. And he survived, but he was burned up from the head to the toe on the right side of his, he looked like a rump roast. I hate to say, but that's, and I'm taking care of him. But I'm like, oh, Danny, God saved you, alcohol saved you, God saved you. Still not really realizing what an alcoholic is. Still, question, like, no, this is it. We're going to live our life forever. But needless to say, what does an alcoholic do? And just to share with you, he had 60 days of sobriety, fairly new, but still he had that 60 days, which one day is great for us,
Yeah.
And
right.
So he like, we were so excited. We ended up moving out to Indianapolis because he had to go to burn unit, wound care, as well as, we had the AA great sobriety out there. If anyone's in Indianapolis, I know people out there that just took off their shirts to help us, and they did. But yet, so all settled in there. So what happens? Danny picks up again. And I'm like, how could you? But meanwhile, the pain, I had no compassion. I had nothing. I was all about me. I did not realize an alcoholic, what an alcoholic truly is, because here I'm still hiding from my own disease. I didn't realize it, that I was the alcoholic, even though I was running from my pain. But I'm like, but Danny, how could that? So he did. He picked up, and then a few months later, like, I kicked him out, like any, whatever family member enabler does, like, you go get sober, and manipulating, bargaining, whatever one would call it. But meanwhile, it wasn't that coming from peace or love in my heart. And then ultimately, a few months after that, when he found his place, I found him dead. He ended up falling, and he hit his head from the disease. On March 13th, March 20, 2013, that was like, that's where I hit rock bottom in life in general.
Right. Right. And so now, how is that where you made the pivot? Because you keep mentioning you didn't know what an alcoholic was. You did know what an alcoholic was. And so, like, seeing his demise, was that what? And I'm well aware that it's typically not just about, like, here's the point, and then you make a 180 turn, right? But is that a pivotal moment for you? Or okay?
Yes, that was a time, but that pivotal moment at the time, I didn't think it would be a pivotal moment. That was where I was like, I was simply existing. I came back to the Jersey Shore, living without Danny, not knowing where I'm going and everything. And then once again, I was on this purpose, purpose. And my purpose was, why did Danny die and people are sober? why are you guys sober? And Danny didn't make it. I didn't understand. Like, we prayed, we did everything. I couldn't understand it. Danny loved me. This was it. How could this happen that he did try? Great man, simply sick. When he was sober, he was absolutely fabulous. And our love went beyond that disease. But it's like, why, God, why? And so that's when I came into the rooms of AA. There's a tradition 3 says the desire not to pick up. Matter of fact, I was invited. I ran across someone's like, why don't you go with us? I said, I'm not an alcoholic. You guys are. But you could come in and listen and hear. Yeah. And I said, yeah, I'll come in. I'll kill everyone. I was so angry. I was so filled with hatred with God, with myself, with anyone who was sober. Like, why? I couldn't, it was like bewildered me. My whole life, I've been like on this journey trying to find some peace. And here I found peace and it's ripped away from me. And like, I still don't, and it's funny because then I did go. I started going to the rooms of AA, to these meetings. I identify myself, the desire not to pick up. I'm not the alcoholic yet.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like I said earlier, Ryan, I'm a slow learner, very slow, alive and slow, I should say, alive and slow. And then during these meetings, like I had such hatred in my heart, and I couldn't understand when some of these people have decades of sobriety and they're still jerks. I'm like, you guys are mean. What are you doing? It's like I couldn't. So anyhow, in those 10 months of just going every day, I'm not the alcoholic, but listening and letting go, that a friend of mine, comes another pivot moment, a friend of mine who's in what they would call double winners in Al-Anon as well as AA, says to me, Gina, you come every day. I know it's about Danny because all I did was cry. But did you ever look at your relationship with alcohol? Never heard of that before.
Right.
Oh my God. Yes. So everything from the moment I had that first drink and, everything.
No, when you were going to these meetings every day, Gina, were you still drinking?
I wasn't drinking because I was so much afraid. I wanted to die, but I didn't want to die. Okay. And I saw what alcohol did to Danny.
Right. Okay. Right.
Ryan, I was one confused pup.
Right. But you had stopped the intake of alcohol, but the alcoholism was still there, this is a peculiar kind of a place, because, and this might be one of the first times I've actually heard it, where the issue and circumstance / disease, whatever you want to call it, of alcoholism hasn't been addressed, but yet you're not drinking. So that's such a peculiar thing. And you're going to AA, and I imagine you're kind of working the steps, and not once have you really said that, like, I am treating myself, right? Yeah. Treating the disease, right? So that's so peculiar. It's such a different circumstance, right? But that's how God's doing it for you, right?
Yeah. And it's so true, Ryan, because to be honest, I had to really question myself, because people are so kind in the rooms. They don't tell you what you are, what you're not. I mean, they all saw that I had the ingredients of being an alcoholic. Granted, I wasn't drinking at that time, but I had all the isms, one would say,
right.
I, self, and me, the isms, and so then it wasn't until I was it was like about 11 months later, like I'm coming to the rooms, and then I'm looking at my relationship, and I'm finding more comfort in these rooms. And I'm like, why? And relationship, alcohol. And I know what alcohol did for me. Like it brought me to places I didn't want to be, brought me to a deep place, and also the emotional part of it. I was at this point, talking about, granted, it wasn't the alcohol per se, but at this point, I was in a cell I was a prison in my own self. Like I was like in such a dark, dark place that there was no light, and there was no life, and there was no God, and there was no hope and no faith. It was so cold and damp that I would see it as a concrete room I was in. Inside, outside, like that, inside, and I was in such pain. And that's what somebody else shared with me during that time of, quartering, whatever. They says, we come in pain. There's pain that we all have that common denominator of pain. I was like, so And it is truly God's grace. God did for me what I could not do for myself. It was on April 2nd, 2015. I said, my name is Gina. I am an alcoholic. In one of the meetings, I'm like, who the hell was that? Who the heck is that? Who said that? But at that time, Ryan, maybe that's another pivot. I had so many pivotal times.
Right.
I'm like slow learner. But at that time, everything I was carrying from pain, low self-esteem, hatred, anger, fear, all the issues, drama, trauma, everything just opened up. And that's where that's what became real painful for me.
Right.
It
Okay.
just opened from the head to the toe, roar. And then I heard God. I said, I heard this voice say, what do you want to do with this now? Do you want to go drink it away? Or do you want to go on your pity couch and just be miserable? Just simply exist it? This is emotional because not realizing that you can be happy and joyous and free. So
Right.
I came into the rooms. That's how I came. But it was sort of like a real struggle. Like the disease was saying to me, "Oh no, you could go drink. You haven't drank in a few months." I'm like, "No, I can't." Like this. Go test it out. Go test it out. I'm like, And call my sponsor. Don't call your sponsor. Go to
devil and
and
angel on the shoulders, right?
yeah,
That
yeah.
pull.
And so and it really took me a good year to really do step one, which is we admit we're, powerless over alcohol. I came to realize I had to surrender and all that. And that then is really when I started working the steps and then, God willing, in April, I'll have 10 years of sobriety. And I realized, wow, now my insides it's not concrete anymore. My insides it's light, meadow, grass, green. And the key thing today is that I live in a healthy solution. The key thing is that I could live life on life's terms without yes, I could be angry at times and fear. I realize I have feelings and it's okay to feel. We get our feelings back and we get our feelings back.
So when you say you live in the solution, how do you mean?
I live in a healthy solution. I live in today. I live in working the steps. I live in the present moment. I try to put myself in the present moment. I live so when life challenges happens, like my father had died in sobriety, instead of like walloping about it or self-pity about it or drink about it, what's my solution? Go to a meeting. What's my solution? Pick up that heavy phone. I need help. So for me, living in a healthy solution is every day being honest, open, and willing, no matter what. No matter what. Is to be who I am. And then also, as time goes, it's a journey, healing journey, sobriety journey, whatever journey it is, but it's a journey of being who I am today. And who I am today is, first, I'm a child of God, and I'm a sober woman of faith that helps out. And then, helping out another alcoholic or addict, reaching out to them, sharing your story, giving them a lift, listening, guiding them, or whatever.
So, well, currently, yeah. All right. So, how do you perform that role these days? Like, what does it look like now for you as far as this beautiful Gina who's living in the solution and being very present? Like, I guess how are you facilitating that help or that support, or like, how does that look for you? Are you just still super active still in the rooms, or is there something else that you got going on? Or
No, I am. I'm still super active in the rooms. I open up a Zoom meeting every morning at 7 o'clock, Monday through Saturday. I also open up our home group. We're still on Zoom. I go to live meetings. We have a club here across from the beach. Help out another alcoholic. I do have a sponsee for now, for today. You never know, But I also, my first thing in the morning is that I turn to God, my higher power. And I do share this in the rooms because the 12-step program of any 12-step is a spiritual program. But they do use God, and people don't like that word God, in many ways, or they be afraid, or they stay away. And I've shared this in the beginning of my sobriety. Nobody knew I was a nun, so I hated God. I really did, and I did say that, and I even said I was a nun. I hated God for what I blamed Him for everything, and. Now, when people did not know I was a nun, of course, they're so kind. They come afterwards like, no, but God loves you. You don't you don't need to hate him because they think it's a voodoo, you know? And I'm like, in my mind, I'm like thinking, yes, I do hate him. I'm divorced to him. He's on the
Yeah.
couch. Come on, you know, because I know who he is. And so I do, like, honestly, I wish I came into the rooms as being an atheist, not knowing, but it took me, I had to do a lot of, I don't know what you would say, you know, letting go of my notions, motions, whatever thoughts about God and everything. And then I did. AA gave me a new life, you know, that I'm able to live in this new solution with God. You know,
Yeah.
God brought me to AA, and AA brought me back to God. And now it's like, so when I talk to people and share with people that they don't, you know, they have their difficulties with a God or whatever, I say, okay, it's a higher power. Just know it's not you. It's not you. I don't care who it is. It could be that chick, but it's not you. Because
Yeah.
also, I just stress, and the last thing I'll say is, Ryan, is that I know what this disease does. It can kill. It killed Danny. I see it. You know, so I share with all those, you know, including myself, with everyone. It's don't take your life for granted. Do not take your recovery or sobriety for granted at
Right.
all.
And sometimes that people that do get hung up on the element of God being a part of it, you know, I, I let them, or I try to express that it's advantageous to think that way. Think what way, right? Okay. In the way that there's something larger than yourself. Because, a serious blunder that I think for either an addict or anybody in general is to think that you're the center of the universe. Right. And we do that. Right. And there's a phrase for people that lean towards the notion of God, is that God never thinks that he's us, but we think that we're him. We start to think that
Yeah.
we are the center point of everything that's going on. And when I say that it's a blunder, it's because it's just more advantageous to believe in something larger than yourself, and however you want to connect to that, whether it be consciousness or God, or whatever you want to call it,
Yeah.
the universe, right? Like whatever you want to attach as far as a label to that is up to you, but it is advantageous to know that there's something larger. There's another level, and it is constantly a part of our journeys. And so again, like the approach, if you just look at it, is like, okay, it's useful to think about that way, right? It's useful to kind of get your head out of your own skull, kind of expand it a little bit and know, like, okay, there's something else here and I can tap into it. That's the best part about it, right? Is that you can commune with it, whether it's the universe, energy, frequency, God, Buddha, Allah, whatever, it doesn't matter. Like when you are attempting or aiming at that higher frequency or higher being, what can happen for you is astonishing. It's an amazing, amazing thing to do, and that's to tap into something higher than yourself. And so people get so hung up on the labels, right? They get so hung up on the church or whatever. They attach this framework of whatever they might be bringing to the table with them. And like you even mentioned yourself, like you bring a whole lot because you were a nun and you're in the Catholic Church, and the Catholic Church is its own thing when it comes to religion and God, and it's quite different than other Christian branches. And so anyways, everybody brings these frameworks to the table. It's kind of sad when people will let that stop them from getting those benefits. And that's my message is like, hey, there's a whole there's a flood of results that can come your way when you release your mind into believing and talking, communing, and interacting with something bigger. And so,
Yeah.
it's such an interesting thing, because even at the mention, all right, so, you had mentioned it too, like when you're like, oh, I hate God, and you're saying some words, people are completely unaware, or maybe they are aware, but like they run to you being Christians, and they're like, no, we've got to change. We got to turn little Gina around. That's what we got to do right now. And so then and you know how that talk goes, right? Like, oh, he loves you. And you're like, I get it. Like, it's okay, right? Like you're not
Yeah.
converting somebody that's clueless, like, but that's so no.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're in the rooms. How does Gina's life look like these days, like on the other side of recovery?
wildest dreams. I'm living my wildest dreams. I have my boyfriend. He too is in the rooms, and we're both like retired, so we're just enjoying the moment, enjoying today, thanking God. Gratitude goes a long way as being in recovery and being sober today for everything. And it's amazing, and it's also amazing to see other people learn, get a program or find some source within them to see them grow. And it's also amazing to see myself grow too. It's like, oh wow, I don't react that way the way I did. I'm not perfect, I know that much. I know things are going to happen because there are areas in my life that I could continue to grow in, but in the most positive way. And that's one thing, my life today is that I'm living in the light. I'm living in life. I'm living in the light. And because I tasted darkness big time. And it's still there. Like you could taste it. And we all have a story to be told. And we all have these experiences to be able to share, to taste, and to say, hey, I did it this way. And then ultimately, I see it's all in God's hands, or the higher power's hands, or the universe hands. It's God's grace.
You're right.
I don't know why Danny died at the age of 51 from this tragic car accident. He did do everything that he could. He was sober when he was driving, but this happened. At first I'm like, shame and everything like this. And I'm like, no, that's God's story for Danny. That was God's story, and the way he died. Granted, as we know, alcoholism, people who die from this disease, is a stigma. Like overdosed, everything, whatever is young, old, doesn't matter. It's like a stigma.
Yeah.
It's not a stigma. These are just wonderful, great young men and women, old men and women that just are so loved, they're just great men that were simply sick. And what am I to say why they didn't get it? Who am I to say, oh, okay, they didn't do A, B, C, D, they didn't call. I can't say that because I'm not in their shoes of pain. Like, that's what I'm saying. I didn't realize later on with Danny's pain he was in.
Yeah.
I mean, imagine watching your mother burn up and die. Or die like that.
Yeah.
Any good or alcohol recovery addict
it could
be able, like another trauma. And who am I to say? Like, who am I to say? So I always say that, those who do die from this disease, addicts or this, they didn't die in vain. I always, this is my Gina Theology 101 or whatever, is that when somebody dies from this disease, then somebody will get sober and find recovery that same day. I truly believe that.
Right.
I truly believe that.
And that's a very grand scheme of things. And sometimes it's, again, getting out of your own head. And then, what you had mentioned about the light and the dark. Right. And I think that I try to remind myself often, as often as I can, when expressing gratitude, that we don't know how bright living in the light is if we don't know how dark living in the dark is. And so that contrast I'm very thankful for in my life, because I wouldn't know how great it is now if I wasn't familiar, if I didn't know what it was like. And I am familiar, right? Like, I know. So it takes this much time for me to think back, like, oh, well, I remember when I was homeless, and I remember when I was laying in a hospital. Like, it takes me just a split second, because I've just got so many damn memories of living so bad. And so, but they are a gift. Great. They're a gift in that, if you look at them that way, is that just remembering and being and knowing about the dark, that a day where you're stuck in traffic and you're like, this really ain't so bad. I've seen worse than this.
Yeah. And also, Ryan, I look at you, what a gift you are of your experience of what you're doing with this podcast. It's like, I read on your website, I'm like, oh my God, if I know somebody, would need something, this is another good resource to go to. That to me is like, oh my Lord, this gentleman is putting himself out there and bringing people, because I've heard a couple of the other podcasts, to share their story, because of course we want everyone to be sober and recovery and everything like that. And the only way we could do it is, of course, to pray and to share our story, and to know that God has them, God's story for them, how deep they need to go. And maybe, sad to say, like in Danny's case, he died, he had to die. But
We all
I
gotta
also know
go. We all gotta go
yeah.
sometime.
And I also know Danny's so happy now. He wouldn't want to come back
Right.
to living in this life of this, this horrific disease. But that's his, he's I'm also grateful for him and his death and my story today. So
Yeah. Now, Gina, like, what do you got going on? I know you're doing podcasts. I know you're active
yeah.
in the rooms. So, if people wanted to either work with you, get in touch with you, or if they want, like, what do you got going on? What do you got on the horizon?
Well, I just recently, I'm a first time author.
There we
So be it.
go.
All right. Never thought of it. Never, wasn't in my bucket list or whatever. So I did. Last summer I wrote my memoir. I published it. It's called Shake the Dust Off Your Feet and Walk. And it's everything more open. It's more like all the
You got
pain
it?
and all my journaling.
You can hold this thing up. What are
Yeah.
you doing? Aha. Okay. Shake the dust off your feet and walk. I love it.
This is Belmar Beach. This is the bench that I have in honor of Danny. And
that's a real, that's just not a drawing, right? Like that's a real thing.
Yeah.
Right.
It's a real thing with other, I guess, IT stuff, whatever the publishers did.
Yeah.
And so, yes, and it's about faith, sobriety, self-discovery, and healing. So it's everything I shared with your listeners.
Well, okay.
And you can find it on Amazon, as well as I do have a website, GinaEcon.com. That's GinaEcon.com. And it's so true, Ryan. If anyone wants to know more about my story or whatever, or have any questions, prayers, or anything, please contact me, because my heart is open to help others, to share with others my story.
Awesome.
To help them, or even to help their family member, to help them to help somebody else, because we're all in it together. It's a we program.
And I'm gonna have it all in print for everybody. The website,
Thank you.
all the resources.
Thanks so much, Ryan.
Yeah, and we're gonna get to all those resources so people can get in touch with you and hear more about Gina's story and what you got going on. But you're truly a glorious soul. I've appreciated this time, and guys, this has been another episode of The Next Fix.
Thank you.